That brings me around to the top of the hour. It's 10 o'clock, and this is Thursday morning, and this is Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour. My name's John Kelsey. I'll be your moderator today, as most weeks. I'm delighted to see what we have 40 on screen right now, and a couple of new people here, too, which we'll come to in a couple minutes. Let me see. I have some announcements I'd like to make before we go a little further on. Next week on this forum, we're going to have a special guest, Jack Vesery, a wood sculptor from Maine. Jack was very well known in the AAW a few years ago, and then he dropped back for, I think, health reasons, and now he's resuming doing demos and teaching. He's just an absolute whiz at miniatures with very delicate carving and features etched into them, and he's going to tell us all about that and show some slides. So that's next week. Let's see, the hybrid meeting forum. I've talked about that here before. I've now managed to accumulate a list of 60 names associated with 40 clubs of turners who are involved with creating and managing and holding hybrid meetings on Zoom for wood turning clubs. We're going to hold our first open forum on April 18th at 7 p.m. And we'll just introduce each other and see whether we want to continue. But the idea is that we need a place to learn how to use this medium and get better at it and practice it and share techniques. So that's the idea behind the forum. I wish it's something that I think AAW should have done 2 years ago, but they still haven't done it. So we're just taking, actually, I say we, I mean me and Dennis Belcher, who's down in South Carolina, are kind of taking the initiative to just do this and see how it goes. So some of you are on that list because I know you're involved with other clubs doing this. If you did not receive my email about that this week and you would like to, let me know and I'll add you to the list. And I'll be sending some couple of follow-ups between now and the 18th of April to see if we can drum up some kind of a crowd to have that inaugural meeting. Any questions about that? Or comments?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Who is that? I can't
That's
see
Rich
you.
Colvin.
Hi, Rich. Yeah, good. Anybody else?
Do you want us to give you the names of people we forwarded those on to?
It would help. I'll add them to the list.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay, just email me with any of that. It's just fine. And if you know people in clubs who are actively wrestling with this stuff, holding hybrid meetings, buying equipment, setting up, trying to figure out how to do it, please forward the invite to them or forward my name to them and ask them to get in touch or however you want to get them connected. I think this is something that's pretty badly needed. I don't intend to moderate it as closely as this is moderated. I probably will the first one, but I'm seeing it as an opportunity for other people to step up and try their skills at moderation. So I'll be doing as much as I can to encourage that as well.
Will you be recording those, John?
Yes, we'll be recording those and posting those.
So my ask would be, can we send you topics, and then can you just send a list of topics out a few days beforehand saying, you know, this is the initial topic list and be thinking about this?
Yeah, there was a topic list in the email that went out, a broad topic list. I'm intending to make a more finely cut one for the next couple of emails in this.
Great.
I've got a pretty good list of topics that have piled up from these conversations. Okay, let me see. Anybody else got any announcements? I know that Susquehanna is having an event. Would somebody from Susquehanna fill us in on that? Tatkowski or Randy, are you there?
Yeah. This Saturday, we're having, on April 9th, we're having Chris Parker from the United Kingdom who is going to join us and talk about embellishment, dyeing, and carving. And that should be interesting. It's going to be about 2 o'clock on Saturday.
And how can those, if we're not a member of Susquehanna, how can we join that?
You can go to our website. You do not need to log in. And under events, click on the event list and scroll down until you find the Chris Parker thing. If you're a member of Susquehanna, log in with your account. And it's free for members of Susquehanna. Others, it will be $10.
Okay. Questions for Randy?
And you'll get an email with the IR with the Zoom link and some information about Chris.
Okay. All right, who do we have on here? If we're going to do show and tell, I think today. Norbert, what do you got? Hello?
I'm
There
a
you go.
newcomer.
Uh-huh.
I'm presently in Florida, but we winter here. Tomorrow we're on our way back up to Indiana. I belong to the northeastern Indiana, the chiselers and turners. And I've grown up in Europe, mainly Germany, and been trained in Germany. And so I've combined my turning since I've turned since the age of 10, and I'm 75 now. Learned it from my father. But I do a lot of embellishment, a lot of wood carving, professional style wood carving, every style. But I have one plate that I turn on the lathe. I make my own plates for chip carving. And I have one presently here because I take it with me when we come down to Florida, since I don't have a lathe down here. So I'll show you the chip carving. It's a 14-inch plate, and you can get an idea of what chip carving. So this is basswood turned on the lathe, and then the back is typically like a platter, and so
Now,
my
is there-
piece down here.
Is there some dye down in there to darken those?
What I do is I use a liquefied burned umber oil paint, and use that as a antiquing mixture, and it's sealed. I seal the plate with a shellac first, and then I use the a antiquing mixture, burned umber oil paint mixed with burned linseed oil, and then just paint it all the way on, and then let it sit for a couple of minutes and wipe it all off, and that highlights all the chips that are carved out of the plate.
Now, how many knives are you using to do that
I
carving?
use one knife.
Have you got it with you? Can we see it?
It's down in the garage. I'll come back to you. I'll get the knife.
Okay,
I'll come back to you in a minute. You can go on with your
we will.
meeting, and I'll come right back.
Have you watched us before on videos, or you just?
No, this is my first invitation.
Okay.
And because I'm transient from Florida to Indiana, I sort of lose contact with doing stuff here, but I like the camaraderie and of the turning and wood carving and just a general woodworking environment. So I always bring enough things with me down here to carve, and that I have customers that request some of my things, and so I bring them with me while I'm down here for 3 months, and then go back to Indiana. So
Very nice. Well, welcome aboard.
thank you very much. Let me get the knife, and I'll come back and show it to you.
Okay. I'm getting a terrible echo here somewhere. I'm going to mute everybody again and see if we can stop it. Okay, that should have gotten rid of it. Who else would like to show work today, or in some other way make a speech or ask some questions? Use raise hand, please, if you're new here, and that will bring you up to the top of my screen, and it forms a nice queue. I know that Roger Domina has something. Am I saying your name right, Roger?
That's close enough, John.
Okay, we'll get to you in a second. Who else would like to show work today or introduce themselves? How about you, Sarah? I know you're new here.
I don't really have anything to show.
Highlighted.
Well, you could tell us about yourself for a minute.
Sure. So I'm very new to turning. I haven't done a whole lot. I've just taken a couple classes, but it's a lot of fun, and I want to pursue that further. And I don't have a lathe currently, so I'd like to purchase one here in the near future. I do other woodworking. It's just turning is something that I haven't done a whole lot of.
What kind of woodworking do you do otherwise?
Small builds. My family really likes my cutting boards, so I tend to make a lot of cutting boards. I'm looking forward to maybe learning a little bit more about turning laminated wood, and small furniture pieces, that kind of thing.
Very nice. And you live, where do you live?
I live in southern Lancaster County.
Okay.
So my address is Peckway, but I live in the Mount Nebo area. Probably nobody's heard of it. Kind of in the middle of nowhere.
I understand that you came out to Kaufman Kitchens on Tuesday night and couldn't find the entrance. I'm very sorry to hear that.
I get lost pretty easily. I just didn't want to walk around the building and look suspicious. So
Oh, I'm very sorry about that. I wish you'd found us next time.
There are a lot of suspicious guys in that club, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sarah, I have the lathe for you, and I'm just a little bit south. You and I should talk, seriously.
okay. I don't see your name.
He's Jim Bowman.
I'm
Bowman.
Jim
Okay.
Bowman.
All
Yeah,
right.
you and I need to talk.
Okay.
I just upgraded and I have a perfect lathe for you.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Yes. Let's talk.
So on your cutting boards, write this down, wooditis.com. And that's a young lady in Las Vegas. And she teaches woodworking, and she does a lot of cutting boards and a lot of unique things with cutting boards.
All right. I'll check it out. Thank you.
And one last question, do you do any epoxy with your cutting boards or your woodworking?
I don't. That's not something that I've gotten into. I appreciate that craft. I enjoy working with wood. But it's something that I'd be open to trying, but for right now, I'm enjoying just trying different types of wood and contrasting and just making patterns with that.
Let me ask you a different question. What kind of headset are you wearing? I'm shopping for a headset with a microphone.
Oh, this is I think it's a Logitech. Is that
Okay.
how you say it? Pretty inexpensive. But it works very well. I saw somebody else on a Zoom wearing one of these and I asked them and I got it on Amazon. I think it was like $30, so very cheap, not too uncomfortable. But the sound quality is really good. And that's what I need because I have a busy house. And so my family can be loud and obnoxious and nobody on the line knows about it. It's great.
And I can hear your microphone very well. I like that. Okay, who else do we have who wants to show us stuff or introduce themselves today? Norbert, you got the...
I have the knife or the knives.
Okay, let's show us the knives. Then yep.
Yeah, there is one main knife that you use, and it's 99% of the time, and it is strictly a very small beveled blade. It's about 7/8, maybe about 3/4 of an inch long. The secret to using this is to hold the same angle no matter what direction you cut. And so it's between the index finger and the thumb when you pass it along the wood. It's the same angle all the time. And they make bigger blades than that, but it's not worth it because you have to be able to make round cuts and make a very fine small detail when you carve letters and so forth. And the only other thing that comes along with this set is what's called a stab knife. And it is strictly a knife that is used in the hand like this. And if you look at the edges of it, it has a 30-degree bevel on it, very blunt, not sharp, but you use it into the wood, into the grain in the wood, to embellish small, minute details. Like if you're doing a grain of rice or you're doing a flower and you want to highlight the stamens inside, then you just use the stab knife to highlight very small detail. So those are the two knives that are used for chip carving.
So when you're using that knife and trying to hold it at the same angle, do you rotate the workpiece or do you rotate your hand?
Sometimes when the piece is too big, you have to actually rotate your hand and flow with your body. You have to stand over because some big pieces, if it's like embellishing a hand chair or a piece of furniture like doors on kitchen, the kitchen doors are large, but it's difficult to turn them. So you have to lay them on an incline in front of you And so you basically then lean over slightly, and you basically then use your shoulder and your body to get the motion in to get the fine detail. Small things are just done with the flick of the wrist. So, and it takes practice. Practice.
So
I've been-
mostly it's making a little three-cornered chip, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah, it's in German. It's called Kapschnitzen, and it's done a lot, obviously, in Switzerland, Germany, and also in Austria, and you also find it into the Scandinavian countries. But it's one of those things that you use on a flat plane 99% of the time. But I apply it to turnings I've done. Round things to embellish the outside, vessels, boxes with lids, those kind of things. And unfortunately, I don't have my picture gallery on my laptop here. Everything that I have is on my PC up in Indiana, so I can't show you anything.
Could you hold the piece up again, please?
And maybe one week, the workpiece, the plate.
Oh, the plate. Okay.
I'd like another look at the plate. Maybe some week you'd give us a little demo. We'd sure like that.
Absolutely. Now, if you look at the card, when you look at the angles, they are all at around 60, 62 degrees, because that's basically when I started carving, that's the angle I started at. And so with the muscle memory, automatically when I put the knife in my hand, that's the angle. That is the result of it after 40 years of carving and this style carving.
Do you sell these or give them away?
I sell them. People request them, and I give them away.
How long does it take you to do a piece like that?
Well, if I start on a Friday evening, I'm retired now, but I was an orthopedic surgical advanced practitioner in an orthopedic practice as a nurse in surgery, and I would start Friday evening, and I would be done with that piece Monday evening. So,
well, that would be like
how deep are you carving that?
It all depends on the thickness of the wood. If you have a large piece like a door on a kitchen cabinet, and the wood is, let's say, 1 inch thick or 1 1/4, let's say 5/4 thick, and the design is fairly large, then you have to also match the chips to the depth of what your material is, so that it looks balanced. If you make them too small on a large piece, it doesn't look right. So you have to balance out the area that you're trying to cover. And it can be anywhere from 16th or 64th of an inch, just a small sliver, on a small piece. So, but at this point, most people who want to try it, they better start with basswood and not get into any hardwoods yet, because that takes a lot of wrist strength, and that takes a little bit more practice. And sometimes you use carving tools in order to get that embellishment onto larger hardwood surfaces.
Well, how deep was the carving on the example you were showing on that platter?
Some of them here, the deepest maybe not even a 1/4 inch. So you look.
It sounds pretty deep to me.
Well, it is deep if you have a shallow plate, but when you practice and your angles are corrected from all sides, that's what gives the illusion of depth, because the light that's reflected into the chips, that you don't see the detail at the bottom, that's where the depth of the piece comes from. And using then the embellishment, as far as using the antiquing fluid that I put on, that adds that extra third dimension to that piece. Otherwise, it would look very dull and flat. You wouldn't see the chips at all. So, and that's what makes the difference.
Do you stay away from like high-speed dental turbine tools?
Absolutely, when it comes to chip carving or just wood carving. Absolutely. I don't want to sand. The tools burnish the wood as I cut with the grain. I even use carving all my carving tools on turnings, and I understand the grain so incessantly that I don't have a problem with carving into turned vessels. It's just inherent to my background. I don't like high-powered. I don't like to inhale the dust, and it's very difficult to inhale chips when you're carving. So that's the difference.
Good point.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Well,
But-
thank you very much, Norbert, for that intro. And we would look forward to some week when you'll give us a quickie demo. It would be a lot of
Give
fun.
me next week. I won't be here, but the week after, because we're heading back up to Indiana. So we're packing, as a matter of fact.
The week after will be the 21st. Can we count on you for that?
I think so. Yes.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot.
You are so welcome.
And before I go to some of the slides that we've got, is there anybody else here who's new here, who has never spoken or would like to just introduce themselves? I'm looking around for somebody to stick their hand up. Okay. No takers. I'm going to go to Roger next because Roger contacted me earlier in this week to practice screen sharing, and I think we got it down cold. Are you there, Roger?
I sure am. Thanks, John.
Okay. Do you want
to? Sure. So I've been turning for a while. We moved to North Carolina about 4 years ago. Before moving over here, I was very active in the Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois club out there, and actually served in a few of the officer roles out there. So very much enjoy it. So let me see if I can bring up a few photos. John wanted me to share some of my work.
Go for it.
All right. So this is just I guess I would call it a lidded hollow form. It's walnut and hackberry. I did a while back. There's a segmented goblet, cherry, walnut, and maple. That's probably about 15 inches tall.
Now, hold on a second. Where's the segment? Is all of that segmented? Wedges, like little wedges?
It is. It's all segmented. Yes, it is.
And the stem as well?
The stem as well, except it's segmented lengthwise. Yes. Yep.
And what are the woods?
Cherry, walnut, and maple.
Questions? Anybody? Okay.
Can you go back to that the one with the hackberry, please? Let me take a look at that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Can you enlarge the image?
Hit full screen if you have a choice to do it. There it is.
That help? Okay.
Yes. Now tell us about that. Is that that's a lid that opens?
The finial is glued onto that piece, and when you lift that up, the whole top comes off.
How much is the top? This whole thing that comes down here? Yeah.
Yep.
And how tall?
So it's about 15 inches. So that's a piece. Obviously, that's a piece. That's a piece. That's a piece. That's a piece, and that's a piece.
Okay.
What's the spalted wood?
Hackberry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, go on.
So this is, I like to do a lot of, I like working with crotches and natural edge pieces. This is a piece I did just a few weeks ago out of a piece of pecan that you can see if you look closely at that. The worms worked out pretty good, but it's came out pretty decent. I like that kind of work.
Are you going to fill that in with anything, or are you going to leave the? You're not playing with epoxy in there, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm going to leave it natural.
And what's the size of that piece?
That probably is about 11 inches, about 11 inches, and probably about 4 inches tall.
And the finish?
It's a oil-based urethane.
Okay.
I turn a lot of boxes. This is a little box that I turned out of, I believe that is a pear that I used on this one. Put a little piece of an earring on the top. It came from my mother-in-law. after she passed away. So made a lot of those for family members with some of her jewelry. Those were very popular, but I make a lot of boxes.
Are those rings burned in?
No, they're glued in.
I mean, those are lines of veneer in there, or are those pyro?
No, those are burned in. You're right. I'm sorry. Those are burned in. Yep. There's a piece of walnut that is about 11 inches in diameter. And you can see if you look closely underneath it, I did carve feet on the bottom of this one. I wish I would have made them longer, but all in all, this one came out pretty good. Again, I do a lot of natural edge stuff. And this was a piece that a friend of mine got from a buddy of his out in the mountains in western North Carolina. That is from a sourwood tree, which I had not heard of before, but it came out absolutely beautiful. And you can see it's about 16 inches in diameter and 4.5 inches tall. But that really did come out nice.
Hey, Roger.
Yes.
On that prior one that you were just showing, what do you, I mean, because that's walnut, right?
Yes, it is.
No, that's not walnut.
Yes,
okay.
It is.
What do you do to keep the bark from separating from it? Do you glue it in or something?
You know, I did not glue this in when I started. I had one piece, maybe an inch long, that came off while I was turning it. I glued that back on. The rest of it, it just stayed on while I was turning. I have had others I've turned where I have used, CA glue to go around the bark when I've started. That has helped. But generally, I don't.
Okay.
Generally, guys have told me that if you cut the wood in the winter, the bark is much more likely to stay on than if you cut the wood in the spring or summer.
I have heard that too. I can't prove that, but I've heard that the same thing, John.
I've been told the reason for that is that the sap is falling in the winter, and when it starts to rise in the spring and the summer, then the sap is getting between the bark and your outer layer of wood.
I think Don is right about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that turned green?
No. Matter of fact, a friend of mine gave me that, and it was given to him when he lived up in Maryland, and he had a date of 2002 on it. So it's very dry when I turned it.
Mm.
I'm just amazed you were able to carve the feet and not knock off the bark. That's beautiful.
So, yeah, this one came out pretty good.
Nicely done.
So now we'll go on. There's another, just a little lidded box. Again, I believe that's pear on the bottom and mahogany and African blackwood for the finial. There's every now and then I'll get a bug to do a little eccentric turning, and I did this one a while back. Obviously, we've got 3 different pieces in here, but kind of a neat little thing to have sitting around. Not too many people do that kind of stuff, but that was kind of fun.
How many centers? How did you do that? That's multi-centers?
Yes, multi-centers. Yep.
So that's one piece. That's not multiple pieces glued.
This is one piece here. This all is one piece. And then this is a separate piece.
Okay.
There's about a 15-inch platter. Obviously, very nice figured maple, walnut, and cherry that I glued in there. That's just a little simple little crepe myrtle bowl that I carved feet on. This is an ambrosia maple with a walnut finial, and that's a picture with the lid on it. Just a little walnut lidded bowl that I did a while back. And these are 8 chalices that I made for a church event for my wife to give to some friends of hers, walnut and some more of the hackberry. That's a nice little heart-shaped crotch out of river birch. Another little box with carved feet. Another little box, more of that hackberry with a African blackwood knob. And there's a pear hollow form that's about 11, 12 inches tall.
And how far down? Go back to that, please.
Okay.
How far down is that hollowed?
All the way down here.
And out to, so how thick are the walls?
Probably about 1/4 of an inch.
So how'd you do it?
I've got a Jameson hollowing system.
Okay.
And the last one I got here is just another square lidded little box that I made with the finial on it. That's some more of the hackberry. Ironically, on this one, the darkness in that wood got a kind of light, so I had to compensate to get a few more streaks in there. I used some black CA glue and just kind of streaked it on there, and you'd never know it wasn't part of the wood. But anyway, that's just a sampling of the kind of stuff I do and enjoy doing.
Well, tell us again now where you live.
I live in Rocky Mount, North Carolina right now. Yeah.
Can you go back to the previous one that you hollowed? I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah. How do you maintain a 1/4 inch? Do you have a laser on that rig?
Yeah, I do have the laser on it that I use for the wall thickness.
Okay, because I thought, wow, you are really skilled if you had a 1/4 inch and followed that.
So
doesn't mean you're not skilled, but I just wondered how you're doing it.
Well, I plan to one of these days graduate to a camera because I've heard enough people talk about that makes a big difference too, using a camera over a laser. So
hey, Roger, if you want to go to a camera, and it does make a huge difference, send me a note and I can send you all the instructions on the parts. It's only about $50 in parts.
Okay, great.
Good.
And who is this?
Rich Colvin.
Okay, Rich, thank you.
John, could we put that in the notes? Because I'm interested in that. I'd love it too, but I don't want to spend the $700 Trent wants for it.
Well, Rich, okay, let me see. I'm going to end the share first. And I'm going to go back to a gallery view because I think there's some, wait a minute, I got some confusion here. Yeah.
You know what I'll do is I'll put together a presentation for next week on it.
It'll have to be 2 weeks from now.
Okay, fair enough.
Is that you, Rich? Where are you?
I'm Rich Colvin.
Yeah. Have you got some of your ornamental turning? Because we haven't seen any of your work either.
Yeah, hang on. Let me grab a couple.
Okay. While you're going to do
John,
that. Yeah.
John?
Yeah.
The question about using a camera for thickness, if he checks out the Edmonton Woodturners Guild YouTube page, Mike Golka did a demonstration using his camera, very, very inexpensive. I think it was a $25 camera and his iPad and saran wrap. And he does his real thin hollow form. So Edmonton Woodturners Guild YouTube, and it's Mike Golka demonstrates that camera thing. It's great. It's really fantastic.
I'll find that link and put it in the follow-up. I don't know if you guys have noticed, I also sometimes put those links right in the recording as a title so that when we're talking about it, the link shows up on the screen in the recording. It doesn't show up here, but it will in the recording if I remember to do that. Okay, anybody else on that? Back to gallery. Let me see. Okay. The other guy who sent, before I go to Randy and Jim, who are regulars, we haven't heard from Bill Davis in forever, and I got a picture that Bill sent me. So I'm going to go to you, Bill. I'm going to, we got a spotlight on you, and I'm going to bring up your picture if I can. Hang on a second here. Yeah, you should be seeing Bill's rattles now. Bill, you want to talk about it?
How you doing, guys? I'm from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and I started to do a couple rattles this week. My wife is going to a baby shower, so I was trying to figure out which one of these 4 rattles you like the best. The first one I'm not going to give away at all. That's my first rattle I ever made. It's out of somebody gave me a burl, I think, at work. And it was just a small burl, so I made the rattle out of that.
Are these 2-piece rattles?
Yes.
So they're hollow inside, and then the tenon plugs in, right?
Right.
What are you using inside for rattle?
A couple of BBs. I started with like a real little bell and a couple BBs, but it was the same sound without the bell. So I mean, can you hear that? I mean,
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear it.
And I hollow them down to, I don't know, under a quarter, probably an eighth if I can get it. Of course, I do
It's a screw on
the big part first, hollow it out, and then some. Well, this last time I glued the handle right in, didn't part the rattle off yet, and turned the the handle. So this brought up more questions than answers, I think. I was looking at this. This is one I made just yesterday.
It's like I'm trying to get you so you're spotlighted. Are you guys seeing him beside his slide, or what are you seeing?
Yeah, we see him.
Okay.
Yes. So it has a dyed handle. And I'm wondering, can I use poly on this with a baby? These other rattles, I used beeswax, and then I put oil on it and mahogany oil, and I'll buff them.
Nothing is going to survive a baby chewing on it or gnawing on it, so it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Lacquer is shiny, but I wouldn't put it on there just because it's not gonna add anything over the long term.
So the mahogany's oil is good?
Yes.
Okay. Because I still have to buff the ones in the picture. But so
The dye won't come off.
oh, how about this one? Okay, the one that's dyed. I'm kind of worried about that with a baby. I don't know if that's a problem.
I would worry about that. Yeah, I wouldn't give that to the baby.
I would.
I would personally use either an orange oil or an oil that is toy proof.
Well, beeswax would be the only one, I think.
I've used food dye to stain the wood, and that's food. That's safe. They put it in the cake mixes and dyeing Easter eggs, that type of stuff. Worked fine.
Yeah, but some people are allergic to the red dye, so I would stay away from the reds and the pinks.
Yeah. So this is actually one for my wife. She loves pink. So this is my big baby. I made this for her. I'm figuring I don't think she'll be chewing on it and stuff.
You could also dye that handle using beet juice.
Red
beet juice. Red beet juice.
Oh, cool. So the other question is, if it fits in a toilet paper roll, then it's too small, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So, and
any end of it should be
either
inch
end.
and 3/4.
Either
inch and
end
3/4.
should not fit.
Either like this?
Yeah.
You don't know. Baby doesn't know which end's a handle.
Oh my goodness.
Dumbbell shapes are better. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
I've done a dumbbell shape
Or just
too.
a large bead on the end of the handle is fine, but
That's what I said.
Larger.
larger.
That's what I was.
Very big enough so it won't fit in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Okay.
And the
I
other
get one-
suggestion is BBs probably work fine, but if someone asks you what's in there, that might put off some mothers, whereas dried beans or popcorn will also work. And that sounds better to people when they ask.
Yeah, these aren't something I've made for sale. I've just given them to relatives.
Sure.
You don't like your relatives?
Pardon me?
I say you don't like your relatives.
They watch their kids.
Yeah.
They actually, these relatives, I think they're actually responsible.
Yeah.
The part.
I know exactly what they're talking about.
I'll confess to something I did to fill them with. I found in a box my kids' baby teeth that I paid for each tooth as they grew up. And so when I made rattles for grandbabies, I used the baby teeth.
They didn't
that's
break.
cool.
I got some.
Yeah, but oh no, I forget what I was going to say.
Sorry.
No, that's so fun. Okay, so I got to make this a little bit bigger so it don't fit in there like that.
Yeah.
Right.
This is good.
Yeah.
And I got one here that's not. So what do I do with that? Just kind of give that one to somebody else?
You give it to an adult. It's not for kids.
That one to somebody you don't like, right?
If
the adults get that.
If you're gonna put it on a shelf, it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Can you stamp on the side, not for human consumption?
Yeah. Where do I put my...
Don't worry about it. That's how we learned it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Survival of the
Thank you, Bill. I have a new grandchild on the way, the very first, and so I will be making some rattles, and that's good, helpful information to have.
The neatest thing was that I got a really nice video from my brother with his grandbaby playing with this, and I haven't really been in contact with him a whole lot over the last few years, and it's nice to see. So, thanks.
I like the beet juice idea. I love red beet eggs. This is not a cooking show. Sorry.
Okay, well, thank you, Bill. Good to hear from you. I haven't heard from you in a while. Rich, what do you got? You got your some ornamental turning shows?
I did a collaboration with another fellow in the club who does segmented turning, and you can see he made the base. This is a Beads of Courage box. So I made the top, and the handles Osage orange. It's not glued in yet. And then I just decorated the entire top with my machine. But I also did the...
What is your machine? What do you have?
I have an MDF rose engine lathe.
Did you make it or buy it?
Well, I make them and sell them. So I made it, and but we publish all the plans for anybody who wants to make them online. So the only requirement we have is you can't make them and sell them. But I'll be glad to teach anybody how to make one. So then I did the inside with some decorations you can see there.
And that's also done with the rose engine. That's not carved. Is that right? Not hand carved.
Oh, there's nothing hand carved on here. And then we did another piece, and this was for sale in the club. And he again made the segmented piece. He's very good at segmenting. And then I made the lid. You can see that it has two different rosettes that are merged together to form in this shape, as you can see up here on the outside, and get to the square at the middle. And then of course it has a nice little design on the inside also.
Now, I can't imagine how you do that little on the inside. Can you maybe explain a little bit?
So there are two types of cutters. Hold up a second, I'll show you.
We don't often get into ornamental turning, although we have our very expert ornamental turner in the club, Ray Simmons, who's probably on screen here someplace today.
Sounds like a great future topic demo.
Yeah.
So this is a typical cutting frame, and it mounts into the holder like this, but you can rotate it around this way to whatever angle you want to cut with. And sometimes you want to do that.
Where's the cutter?
It's right there.
Okay.
So that spins around, and then this is that's called a cutting frame. This is a drilling spindle, and right now I have a router bit in it that I'm using, and I'll show you what I use that for in a second here. But it's just it's like some people actually use a Jacob's chuck. This is actually a collet holder, and I use different collets. But this is how you cut the inside piece, because you just put a very small pointed bit on the end. A routing bit. But I was doing some experiments with, I wanted to get the side of my flutes to be exactly level, and I was trying to figure that out, and I got to thinking, what if you actually accentuated those curves of that cut? As this trajects down like this, well, it's going to be more like this. It's going to create these loopy patterns unless you move it very slowly relative to the rotation. So I changed that thinking, and this is the top of it now. And this is a prototype I made out of cherry, so you can see some burning on the wood. I would never make one out of this. but it allowed me to check the shape. And what I was able to do was it has 3 columns that have these helical designs that go around them. And it looks like each of the 3 columns is separately carved, but it was done on the Rose engine lathe. And this was used to cut the bottom to get that that swoop up, as it were, on the bottom here. And then this would go into another piece, which I was looking at like this, where I can, then it would go something like this. I mean, these are this piece is too big right now, and this is a bit too big, but it's just some experiments that I'm doing with finials and ideas on finials. So there's another guy and I are going to do some work on that. And then I tried another piece. Now this is one that is a finial also. And, but it looks like bamboo to me. I don't know if it shows up well like that.
Yeah, we can see that. So is there an ornamental turning group in the States, or is it only the British group?
Oh, no, there is an ornamental turning group in the States. In fact, I'm president of it. Ornamental Turners International. If you want to get into the Rose engine, the MDF Rose engine lathe, which is a good entry point, and frankly, it's a good point to stay at, because it's very designed around art and the artist. You don't have to do as much math to think about things. We published all of the plans online. I'll send you a link to those, and we help anybody who wants to get involved. But we're looking at how do you learn how to use the machine? That's the part that we're still working how to get ideas on that. So I thought about, kind of a class like, that Foundations of Woodworking that Fine Woodworking does, where people would come in and we'd give them an assignment, and then go do this for a week and then come back and then we give them another assignment kind of idea, maybe over 8 weeks. Because I think once you get past the different thinking, you can start figuring out new things yourself. And you'll never figure it all out. Nobody ever has.
Would you give us a tour of your lathe setup sometime so we could just see what all this stuff looks like? I mean, I've seen pictures of it, but I've never really understood how the hell it works. And I've always had in mind to go down and visit Ray and get him to show me, but I haven't done that yet either.
Yeah, let me, it's pretty messy right now, but I'll clean it up. And
sometime in a couple of weeks, you could give us like a pretty thorough little tour.
Sure, happy to.
Can you change the direction of rotation on that cutter on the cutting frame to go with?
Yeah, in fact, there are 2 cutting frames. There's this one, Styles, that has a cutter and it's held in place with Allen screws. I put one on each side. And sometimes you want to cut this direction. Sometimes you want to cut, so you just rotate it around.
Yeah.
And this is driven by an overhead drive. So, instead of having having it come down and then go back up, I just swap the cable and it turns the other direction.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Sometimes you want to, like on a drilling frame, or this is a drilling spindle. Sometimes you want to cut, if you're using a router bit, you definitely want to cut this direction, but other times, if you're using a different kind of bit, you may want to spin the other way.
I love to do it. And I was told that if I really wanted to get into it, I could get started for $40,000. And
no,
that ended that. So anyway,
if you live near Ohio, come see me. I'll show you mine, and it's far less than that. In fact, I've got one. I'll sell you $700.
Okay.
Are you in Columbus?
I am, just outside Columbus.
I was once offered a Holtzapfel style ornamental lathe for about $30,000. Yeah. Which of course I didn't buy.
Hey,
yeah, there's a group in New York.
Too much.
A group in New York that is called the Plumier Foundation, and the guy who founded it used to be the president of Christie's, and he's got some amazing ornamental lathes. He's got the highest cost lathe ever. He paid $228,000 for it, and then he had to have it shipped from England.
Did you know Frank Knox?
I did not.
Frank was a New York guy who I think belonged to that group. I have one of his pieces he gave me years ago. I wrote about him one time. I think I'm afraid he's long gone, but very interesting guy and he had more of a Holzapfel type setup. He had it in a storage room at the Tudor apartments near the UN in Manhattan.
Wow. Yeah.
What's your website so I can go see how this stuff works?
I'll put it in the chat to everybody.
Yeah, please do. And the chat comes to me as a thread after the meeting, and I can post the whole chat if there's a lot of information in it, or I'll usually just extract the useful information and post that. But it looks like we got a lot of follow-ups this week, so that'll be good. Okay, thank you, Rich. Very interesting. Good intro. Randy, you're next. What would you like to show us?
I've been working on a project for the Freedom Pens, and over the last couple of weeks, I've been making these. There's 36 pens there. These are all slim lines, which I've modified to make them a little bit thicker. And on some of them, I've actually made the top cap blank a little longer than normal. I have about 5 more to go, and then I'll be done with this particular batch of pens. And as a follow-on to some comments earlier, on March 14th, I became a great grandpa for the second time.
What is the wood in these pens?
They're mostly maple and some cherry.
And does the caps come off, or do the caps are a clip, or are they a loose cap that fits on the other, comes around?
They're just a cap with a clip on it. It's just a slimline pen.
Well, what's the guts inside? I mean, how do you get good quality guts?
The standard slim lines you can get at Woodcraft are pretty good. I would stay away from the really cheap ones because a lot of times you'll find problems with them, mostly to do with the transmission.
What's the transmission?
You'll find a transmission that doesn't work, doesn't extend, locks up, and various other things. But I don't use the center bands on these. I cut a little notch in them where the center band normally would go, and that's about it.
Now, Freedom Pens. Tell us more about that. How does that work?
Basically, the Freedom Pens project sends pens to people serving our country, normally overseas, and they really appreciate it. I include a card with my name and email address, and I've actually gotten several people sent me emails and said thank you for doing that, and it shows your appreciation of the people that are protecting our country.
How do you get in touch with the Freedom Pens project?
Mike Rowe is the person to contact. I'll put his contact information in the chat.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
And that's about it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to remove the spotlight. And Duxbury, you're the cleanup man.
Betcha. Can I do a share?
You sure can. Now, if you can go full screen on that, if you can make that bigger and get rid of the furniture around it, somewhere you got a button you can click to make it full screen.
Oh yeah.
On mine.
It might be up there in the upper right. I'm not sure.
Anyway, I'll do that next time.
Okay. Tell us about these. What is
I did
it?
a magazine article. I made 2 bowls, identical bowls. And this is done with a spacer between them. There's the bottom and the inside of the other one.
Well, how did you do it? What's going on here?
This is how you do it. I draw the piece first. The spacer in between here determines the height of this and also the oval shape of it. If you put two pieces together, you end up with a spindle. But if you space them out, you can make ovals. By the distance of this spacer, you can make this any size oval you want. So I made this to go from to this size base to this size OD. And that works really great. When you get done, this is glued with the brown paper and you split them off. And it's in Woodturning magazine. There's a whole article in there, just came out. So lots of fun. Then I had one more. If you saw the meeting, the Lancaster meeting, they drilled a piece of wood 13 inches long along about a 2-inch hole, 13 inches deep. And the guy cranked his tailstock 3,000 times one way and 3,000 times back. I got over that. This is my tailstock. This is an air turbine here made out of plywood. And over here hanging on the wall is my air hose. And all I do is give this a spin and hit it with air, and it runs out about 300 RPM, goes right out. And when I get done, I spin it the other way and hit it on the bottom, and it comes back at 300 RPM. Okay?
You are one lazy wood turner, I'll tell you, Jim.
You got it, man. You crank on that thing long enough, you get smart.
Alan Miller here. I was the guy doing all the crank air, most of the cranking at the Woodturners.
That's right.
That particular tailstock is going to need some lubrication before it's going to spin with an air gun.
No, I don't know. It's pretty good. I suppose it could be a better turbine. I'm not an expert.
No. Yours might be fine, but I'm saying the one that we had on Tuesday night, I was cranking that thing pretty hard.
Yeah. Well,
Alan, it helps if you unlock it.
Yeah. I pull it out first, but I've got all kinds of tools. In fact, this eye in the top here, you know how they talked about they need a swing away tailstock? Well, that's $360 or something, and all it does is swing it out of the way a little bit. But right next to this, this thing with the orange thing on it, is a hook. And I unlock this, I pull this lever out and unlocks the base from the lathe. And I put this hook in here and push that button and it goes straight up in the air. So I don't lift my tailstock at all. Anyway.
You showed us that one time. I think you got a little video of it somewhere.
I got a video of it somewhere, yeah.
How do you avoid hitting your head with it swinging around up there above you?
No, you take it up high enough. Sometimes I take it up with a faceplate and a piece locked on it. I take it straight up and let it hang on the ceiling, do what I want with a lathe and bring it back down. And not only that, my wife can do it. That thing weighs 85 pounds. And if she wants to use it and you have to lift that on and off a dozen times an hour, you get tired of that. So anyway, this just goes straight up.
We actually have a beam overhead, a steel I-beam overhead in the shop where the lathe, the club meeting space is. So we could really rig one of those up probably.
I think you can buy the lift for about $95 or something, around $100 from Harbor Freight, and it'll lift 500 pounds or something. So
you could pick the whole lathe up.
Yeah, sometimes that thing hangs up there for a week. It's out of the way. Anyway, I've got all kinds of tools.
You surely do.
Anyway.
Is that all from you?
That's it.
I'm going to go back to gallery view. We're right on the hour, so anybody got any last words here today?
I'll make a comment there. That first thing he showed on the bowl, that's exactly what I did when I made the fluted bowls. And what's his name? Mike has been on the Lancaster area Woodturners, made those fluted bowls. That's how you do it.
Mike Cooterback showed us that technique. Yeah, very, very clever technique. Somebody, it's called.
Just want to thank John again. John, thanks for all the work that you're doing for us. We really appreciate it. You need to hear that.
Well, thank you for that. Jack Cap came up to me at the meeting the other night and he said, it's pretty clear that you enjoy doing this a lot. And I had to cop to that. I really do. So I want to thank you all for showing up and participating every week. It's a lot of fun for me. And it's obviously enough fun for all of you that you keep coming back. So I'm glad to see you. And we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you so
John.
much.
Thank you, John.
Great moderator.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.